Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing Merfolk, believe it or not. So a good friend of mine was asking me if I could play some Merfolk on the channel at some point, and I said I don't really know how to build Merfolk in a way that isn't embarrassing in legacy. And then this week somebody managed to 5-0 a league with Merfolk, so I thought why not give it a whirl for my friend. So here we are playing Merfolk. The aim of the game is we play a bunch of lords. So we have Master of the Pearl Trident, Lord of Atlantis, which has got some pretty funky art I've not seen before, and Vodalian Hexcatcher. So all of these are lords. These two are both 2/2s. This one is a 1/1, but it has flash, and it allows you to sacrifice your creatures to little force spikes on non-creature spells. We also have 4 Harbinger of the Seas, which can just steal games. We have 4 Merfolk Trickster, so this taps target creature an opponent controls it, loses all abilities until end of turn. So this allows you to push damage as well as maybe win races and stop something really busted from happening. Then we have Tide Shaper. This is a 1-mana 1/1, but you can kick it, and then you get to make a land into an island, which can be mana denial. And then if your opponent has an island, this creature is a 2/2 for 1 mana, which is okay. We have 4 Silvergill Adepts. This allows us to draw extra cards and keep the pressure going. We've got ourselves a Mistcaller, which we can sacrifice until end of turn. If a non-token creature would enter and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. So this is just saying no to Show and Tell, Reanimator, Green Sun Zenith, that sort of jazz. This is being put in an Aether Vial deck so that we can play multiple creatures on like turn 2 and 3. We also got some Cavern of Souls, so our creatures are uncounterable. We've got the Wastelands. And we've got ourselves some Sink into Stupor, so part of our mana base is a spell, so hopefully we're not going to get flooded out that much. And obviously we have 4 Force of Wills to tie the room together. Sideboard-wise, we got removal because we are a Monoblue deck. We need removal. We've got ourselves some Disruptor Flutes, a generic answer card for a bunch of different things. Some Floodpits Drowner, which is a good way of getting rid of creatures. So what this does is it comes in and it stuns a creature. So it puts a stun counter on and taps it, and then they don't untap for a turn, and then you can shuffle it in along with your Floodpits Drowner. So it's kind of like an expensive way of removing something, but you can just tap something down for pressure as well. And then we have some Force of Negations, a little bit more hate for the combo matchups. And that is what we're playing today. How do I expect us to do? Probably not a 5-0, but hopefully we can put some wins on the board with these little fish. I know a lot of people like Merfolk as just a thing, and it was such a classic creature-based deck way back when, so it'd be nice if it had a little bit of love, but I'm not hopeful for this one, but it should be an absolute blast. So like, subscribe, and let's see if we can get swimming with the victories here. If you are looking to buy some Magic cards, not only does 3for1 Trading have a wonderful online store linked in the description of this video, but they will also have booths at upcoming events. MagicCon Atlanta from the 26th to 28th of September, Eternal Weekend Pittsburgh from the 9th to the 12th of October, and Spiel 25 in Essen from the 23rd to the 26th of October. Whether you're looking to sell off cards you don't need or add more to your collection, 3for1 Trading has got you covered. I guess we're supposed to keep Aether Vial hands, but this is a little spooky. We can play a Silvergill Adept on turn 2, or turn 3 if we want to put it in with a Vial. The old Island Aether Vial start. It's a big signal of what we're doing. We do also have double force. If our opponent is some sort of send it combo deck, we maybe end up in an okay spot. I think we might just hold off on casting this Silvergill Adept next turn. So our aggro deck might not be playing a creature until turn 3, which feels a little bit sketchy. A Chrome Mox. Okay, so we could be looking at a combo deck here. That is a Maze of the Moon. Okay, we're looking at a Stompy deck. Summon Spirit Guide into Fable. I don't really want to have to deal with a Fable here. I'm going to pitch this Sink into Stupor and hold back this Force of Will for the next piece of the puzzle that our opponent tries to deploy. A Tide Shaper. That'd be cool if we had some more mana, really. I guess we play Aether Vial. We don't run Brainstorm, so we can't put cards back. We may as well just start cranking these up. Right, as the saga is ticking up. So yes to both Aether Vials. A Wasteland. How do I want to do this? I guess we begin by just drawing a card. That seems like a good way of doing it. A Mistcaller. So we could Wasteland our opponent here. Or we could just try and get this 2/2 in. We get this 2/2 in and switch off the Urza Saga. Although I'm not sure how this works, right? Because this has gained the ability to do this. So I think that goes on the layer above where it would become an island. The same way as if you play Maze of the Moon. So I think we have to Wasteland this. Yep, they get a guy. It is the biggest guy on the board. But we could just stack a bunch of lords at some point. The One Ring. No, thank you. And I think we get rid of the Mistcaller. That seems the weakest of our Merfolk in this particular matchup. Are they going to send an attack in, or are they just going to sit back and try and block the Silvergill Adept here? I think they should block here. Alright, they're coming in for the attack. We obviously don't know what's in their hand. And we're never making that trade. Yep, our opponent agrees that they should be just holding back. They've got more cards in hand than we do. Which is a sorry state of affairs, really, isn't it? So we're going to leave them both on 2, I think. Does punish us if we draw a Harbinger of the... Of course, we drew Harbinger of the Seas. Okay. Yeah, we don't have a lot going on here. We could play this Tide Shaper because we're planning on giving them islands next turn. That sounds horrible, but we're playing Merfolk. We got to do stuff like this. Do I want to trade this for their Construct token? I think so. The Construct token is likely to get bigger. I'm not sure if our creatures are necessarily going to get much bigger. So next turn we get the Harbinger of the Seas in. They still have a red source, so it's not really going to do that much to them. But it's going to make our Tide Shaper into a 2-2. Pyro Goyf. Are they going to dome us, or are they just going to ignore our little friend? So I think they should just dome us, to be honest. I don't think it's worth spending 5 damage on a 1-1. Nope. Okay, our opponent disagrees. Guess who doesn't have loads and loads of Hydroblasts in their sideboard? That's right, me. I would love some Hydroblasts. Okay, so we say yes to this, and then no to the next one. Cavern of Souls. I guess we name Merfolk. It doesn't matter. I guess we put in the Harbinger now, so our opponent has less mana on their turn. Feels like we are a million miles behind already. Okay. It feels like we're pretty dead here. The Broadsword Bombardiers is pretty solid. So they come in for 5, 6, 7. I guess we just allow this to happen. Are they going to fling the Chrome Mox at our guy? They could do that. They could just do nothing. Alright, we're not going to do anything with these Aether Vials. So this is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, I don't think we get through this. We could chump block their Pyrogoyf, but I think we are just having a rough time. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. This gives them another thing they can fling. So they can fling this at this guy if they want to make sure that the 5 damage connects. But we kind of have to chump block here anyway. Or we die. Yikes. What possible Merfolk are we going to be drawing to here? Where is our Merfolk Cataclysm? It just blows all their stuff up. Hexcatcher. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're just dead on board here. Even if we Hexcatcher, it's not going to be enough. So, unsurprisingly, we got pretty pummeled there. Let's go to the sideboard and see if we can fix this up at all. Doesn't look spectacular for us, does it? So, Force of Negation to answer the One Ring is something we can do. But it doesn't answer a bunch of their other things. Now, we could try and counter their Moxen and try and win the game by making them all have blue mana and never being able to play red. But that just completely falls apart if they have a single red mana source at any point. How do I feel about the Aether Vial? In general, I think it's pretty bad as a card in Legacy these days. Maybe we just try and get rid of this. Although, are we bad against their Blood Moons? Maybe. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. We need to fit these Dismembers in. The Mistcallers don't really help here. So I guess that's the easy cut for Dismembers. Do I want Floodpits Drowners to deal with creatures? Probably. That maybe means we're just losing... do I like the Hexcatchers? They're fine. Like, we need to have Lords. That's the only way that we're ever going to get through this. Disruptor Flute can answer the One Ring. We can always counter the One Ring or try to. The Disruptor Flute also can stop Broadsword Bombardiers throwing stuff. That's reasonable. The Tide Shaper is kind of interesting. We can shut down as a Saga or one of their rare red sources. Trickster is tap target creature and opponent controls. It loses all abilities until end of turn. So it's just like a one-shot thing. But maybe that's still good enough here. Maybe we are just getting rid of the Aether Vials. There's such a bad draw.
Like, in that game, we had 2 Aether Vials. If one of them was an island, then our hand probably... And the other one was a spell, we end up with a better hand. I just don't think we're living in the world of Aether Vials. Oh, this is a classic, isn't it? Do I think we're going to draw a blue mana source? I don't think we get to keep these. We get to cast 3 spells, though, on the mana we have here. Maybe we need to get lucky because we are playing Merfolk, and we need to just say, look, we got 2 draw steps to hit an island. Well, I guess we got 3 draw steps to hit an island, or a Cavern, or a sink into Stupor. Alright, let's just get the island in. What Merfolk really needs is like a 1-drop that is good. That would really help the deck out. Better than there's a Saga. Okay. So maybe we are just wastelanding this. Alright, play silly decks, win silly prizes, I suppose. Goodbye as a Saga. We need to draw a blue source. Pretty darn sharpish. City of Traitors. Fable using a Summoning Spirit Guide for the red. Sure. Okay, we are in trouble. How many lands are we running? 16 plus the 4 Sink into Stupor. So that's 20 lands. And that's 16 of them that do tap for the colour we need. I don't like how this is panning out for us. Sometimes it's good to give back to the world, and today we are giving some free wins to the world, I suppose. Every so often you get tricked into playing Merfolk. Alright, we've got an island. It's all over for our opponent now. Lights out. There's no chance they can win this one anymore. Let's go for... just keep playing Lords out, I think. Just get the most amount of power we can. I think there's definitely other ways of building Merfolk than this sort of build. Like, the whole deck just wants to play 2-drops. So why are we not running, like, things that allow us to play a 2-drop ahead of curve? Like, if we were to go, like, turn 1 Lord, turn 2 Lord, turn 3 Lord, with, like, forcible backup, that's a pretty hefty clock. I don't know. I'm just having some thoughts about Merfolk in general. What is this? Cut Propulsion, 3 mana. Target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. If that creature has flying, it deals twice so much damage. Okay, so this is killing Barragoyfs. That's what this card does. Because it deals damage equal to its power, but it has Death Touch, so it does kill itself. A Lava Spur Boots, you say? Okay, we're going to get hit for a bunch. Not looking great for us. I'm not going to give away my Lord of Atlantis here. Force of Will, you are a little bit late to the party. I guess we're going to turtle up. Just keep making bigger and bigger guys. If we start swinging here, I don't think we win the race. I don't think we're going to win this race anyway. But, you know, we've got a Force of Will, so our opponent can't get something really scary. If they burn all these treasures for something like a Pyrogoyf or a Fury or whatever. Oh, feels like it might be in Fury Town. No? It's a Pyrogoyf. We have to say no to this one. I guess we get rid of Floodpits Drowner, I suppose. We just want to keep playing Lords. We've got 2 more in hand. So now attacking doesn't actually look very good for our opponent. We can just keep playing the Lords. A Fury. This is only going to kill one of our guys, but it will mean that blocking is not really an option here. Actually, no, it's not. It's going to kill both their guys because they're going to copy this, right? Because they got the 1 treasure. Yeah, we're dead here. This is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then that puts us to 1. Yeah, we're getting smashed there. Let's go to round 2. Alright, we have an Aether Vial game. I guess we keep. So, one of the problems I have with the Merfolk deck in general is, like I said, we're trying to make 2-drop creatures a thing, right? We're just trying to spam as many of these 2-drop creatures as we can. The downside for doing that is that we have no way of ramping them out. Instead, we're playing a way that makes it a turn 3 2-drop instead of a turn 2 2-drop. That, to me, doesn't seem great. Okay, so we could have played out the Sink into Stupor. I didn't want our opponent to know we're playing blue. Also wanted to have this Wasteland pressure in how they're going to be fetching their lands. And we already have a play that we can play anyway. Another Aether Vial, you say? What do I do with that? I guess we play it. Like, doesn't feel amazing. We can punish our opponent if they get a Surveil land end step. They could be something like a Nardu deck. That's not really something we want them to have lots of mana underneath them. Didn't fetch an end step. This suggests to me they have a lot of non-basics in their deck. So there could be something like a Breakfast deck, which runs like 1 plains
and one island, and yeah, one plains, one island, and tends not to have the basic for the green source. So if they have a hand that requires them to use green mana for like a Nadu, they're sometimes a bit cagey about cracking fetches. This could also just be like something else like Maverick or whatever. Hopefully we'll get some more information. They've seen the Soporific Spring, so now they know that there's counter magic. Okay, so this is like the green source that I was talking about. They might just go, here's a Nadu. And that's going to be pretty good. They got one of each, so it's very hard for us to waste them off of anything. And there is the Nadu. That is better than anything in our deck, which is a little bit awkward. Okay, I believe in you, Aether Vial. This is your time to shine. Force of Will. A little bit later than I would have wanted that one. We probably need to play around days, which means we don't get to play the Silvergill Adept. Although if we Silvergill Adept and find a land, that's really good. Alright, I'm going to reveal this Master of the Pearl Trident. Find a land? We did find a land. Okay, we were rewarded for something. So we can play around a days. But if they put a Nomads or a Shukum into play, we pretty much just lose the game here. So we do need to get this Force of Will to convert. But we can shut down their mana quite handily in the near future. Okay, Brainstorm. So next turn we can put this one up to 3 to get the Harbinger in. This one's in 2, so we'll end up with like 2 Lords in play next turn. And then the Harbinger can hopefully shut off their mana here. A Nomads in core. Well, we don't have a choice. We have to counterspell this. What do we get rid of? Picture Lord of Atlantis. Keep different names. Okay, so they have a Force of Will back. So now what happens is our opponent just gets to play a game where they get to draw an additional 4 cards every turn. Okay, it's going to be 6 cards every turn. And that's my turn and their turn. That's 12 cards a turn cycle. Alright, if they find... I guess we can maybe shut them off of being able to cast spells, and they have to find their exact planes. That's probably how we win this one. So there is a path to victory. Okay, Keen-Eye Curator. This feels more like the mid-rangey builds with Green Sun Zenith. So we're not dead yet, but it's not feeling good. Let's put in this Master that they've already seen. A Sword, 2 Plowshares. Good. That's not the thing we care about, the Swords Plowshares being put upon. So yes to both of these. Right, there's another Swords to Plowshares. Cool. There's another Nadu. Just don't reveal the planes. Like, they will get there in the end. Okay, so this is the basic planes. I don't think we can win now. It was the Windswept Heath that does it there, because then they always have the ability to just plow a Harbinger, and we're never going to get through this. Alright, our opponent's playing a good deck, and we're not, so we're already under the gun a little bit. Let's have some Dismembers. It loses all abilities until end of turn. This can buy us a weird turn, but they do get a Nadu trigger off of this. Odd. I think Harbinger is actually useful here. The Disruptor Flute shutting down the Nomads is relatively real. If we think they're a Green Sun Zenith deck, then the Mistcaller looks good. The Tide Shaper is just going to be a 1-mana 2/2, which is actually alright for us. How are we supposed to board these cards in? I guess the Merfolk Trickster is probably not that exciting. We could just have some Dismembers. Do want Disruptor Flutes. We probably have to lose a Lord to do that. I don't think our deck can handle boarding in that many cards. Alright, this is what we've got. I'm not 100% sure on the Aether Vial. We could swap them for Disruptor Flutes. Okay, I guess we keep this. I guess we lead off on an Aether Vial. A Delighted Halfling. So we could start attacking their mana here. I think that's a worthwhile thing to do with our time. Is it better to keep the Tide Shaper a secret or to keep the Mistcaller a secret? I think I'm just going to cast a Tide Shaper and keep the Mistcaller a secret, so if they go for like a Green Sun Zenith, we can blow it out with our Mistcaller. Oh, a Tamiyo. That's obviously very good. And a Lush Portico. Left a card on top. Well, I think we fire in, get this Mistcaller going. The Aether Vial trigger on the stack. A Hexcatcher. Let's play this on Merfolk, I think. And then let's put in the Silvergill Adept. A Wasteland. Well, we get to push through a point of damage here. If they flip the Tamiyo, then no more damages. I guess the Silvergill Adept can attack as a 1/1, but that's quite easily roadblocked. Alright, that is not an island.
Is there a car on it? Okay. So they can play a Nadu, so have it. We can also flash in this Hexcatcher and mess with some spells. Alright. Surprise. We can attack for damages. Oh, this can't be countered, opponent. Oh, the Cavern of Souls. That's painful to see, but we need all the help we can get. We're playing Merfolk. This can stay on to a Wasteland. Alright, let's blow this up before we go to combat. He's cracking this clue. Or you got tricks. Swords to Plowshares on this guy. So we can sacrifice a bunch of guys to try and keep this around. That's just a horrible play for us though. I can just gain 1 life. I'll take 1 life. So now the only thing we can attack with is the Silvergill Adept, which we obviously will attack with. We also have to be careful when we use Mistcaller because it can tread on the toes of our Aether Vial. They're not going to trade their mana for our rubbish guy. Eventually, they'll have all the resources they need because that's what Tamiyo does. Like, it's the most powerful blue card in the format, and we're playing a mono blue deck that doesn't run it. That makes me feel a bit worried. Yep, in you come. Got the Dryad Arbor. Let's just activate this, get our opponent sweating. We will not put a counter on the Aether Vial. We'll go to attacks. They shouldn't block here. This is very telegraphed that we have something. And they got a Source of Plowshares here. We can counter the Source of Plowshares because of the Hexcatcher. Which of these creatures is the worst? Do we want to stop them having Green Sun Zenith stuff? I don't think so. We sacrifice these 2 to keep it around. I think that's fine. So we don't force any damage through this turn, but we get to keep their guy off the board. I hate it, but I think it's worth trading this off now. So we get rid of their Delight Halfling. They're just on 1 mana. If they can't crack clues, they can't really leverage the Tamiyo power. And that's pretty much what we have to hope for here. They can just keep this back on blocks if they want. Alright. We're not doing anything with this Aether Vial. Merfolk of the Pearl Trident, you say. I will attack with my guys. I will put in a Master of the Pearl Trident, please. Boom. Look at that. We're doing it. We're doing the Merfolk thing. We're going to leave this in hand so our opponent's worried about what it might be. They might think we have a daze. Prismatic Ending on this guy. Sure. I don't think it's worth sacking either of these to keep that guy alive. You just keep the Lord's powers going. Alright, they're back on blocks with the Tamiyo, so that's something. Do I want to turn this into an island? I don't think I do. If we turn this into an island, they can start casting Brainstorms and cantripping their way out of here. So I think the plan is just attack for 5, play this Tide Shaper for 1 mana. He's still a 3/3, right? We should have cast off the Cavern. I probably could have counterspelled that one. But yeah, I don't think it's worth kicking this. The Hexcatcher. I can save the Hexcatcher by sacrificing the Tide Shaper. I think that's worth doing here. Sink into Stupor. So we could bounce this and crash for more. Or we could just hold this up for if our opponent does find anything else. Because we're already like doing pretty well here. Bouncing this now doesn't make a huge difference. If we bounce it next turn, then they just can't do anything. And these can crash through for lethal. Alright, they found a second mana source. How lucky for them. A Nomads. They can't daze this. So I think we cast this Sink into Stupor. Because our opponent can't redeploy the Tamiyo right now. This gives us the ability to attack and force a chump block here. To actually take something out. A Mistcaller. I will cast this. This is basically just a force spike that we can leverage. Alright, so they chump block this guy. They go to 2. They got 1 turn to make it happen. To play an island, we have 5 power of unblockable guys. We won a game. That's a victory. We won a game. Okay, this seemed fine, just having removal. That game was mostly brought to you by Triple Wasteland. Do I like the Aether Vial? Can our deck function without the Aether Vial is a different question as well. I'm not sure if it can. I think we just have to... Well, I'm so worried about Tamiyo. Right, maybe it's too slow on the draw, so we'll swap it out on the draw.
This isn't really what we want, is it? That's mulligan. Oh dear. 2 draw steps to find a land. Any land is good. Okay, I'm going to keep this in bottom flute. We need to play on relatively tight margins considering the quality of the cards in our deck. Are we just straight up dead to Tamiya? Probably. Which card do we get rid of? I think it's the Mistcaller. Like, they can just have a Howling Mine and we're never beating that. Okay, we found a card we can cast. A basic forest. A Carpet of Flowers. Sure, we can't really do much about that. Alright, and they're just playing out a Nomads. You got it. Cavern of Souls. Play this. We name Merfolk. So now we are in a horrible situation. Do we have to play this Disruptor Flute? I guess we attack. I'm happy to make this trade. Take out your combo piece, please. I think we just have to hold up the Disruptor Flute, as sad as that is. Make our opponent commit to spending mana on something. I think they'll eventually get through a Nadu if we put this on Nadu. Why didn't they attack? Interesting. Alright, let's see if we can resolve a Disruptor Flute. Nomads and core, please. I think we are just getting more damages going. So here comes Lord of Atlantis. It's uncounterable. It should be noted that we did have our opponent Force of Will an uncounterable spell. And that's the reason one of the reasons why we're getting to a game 3, I guess. Or was that the first game? I can't remember. Alright, we've got some Island Walkers. We are giving our opponent more mana by playing out this island. Brainstorm, not a bad way to start a turn. Right, they're not spending the rest of their mana. That's good news for us. Okay, so they could have an Endurance here. Is there a way that we can get through that? I guess this card is more expensive because we played it out this way, but I think we had to get the pressure going. I think we just bash in with the Mistcaller here. I'm a little bit worried about Endurance. Yeah, I would describe this as a devastating sequence of events. So now they can... Okay, so this is more of a worthwhile trade for them now because of the Disruptor Flute. We don't have a way of casting this Silvergill Adept cheaper. We could have played our spells out in a different order, but then we wouldn't have been pushing any damages. And I think getting the damages being pushed in was more important. And if we don't draw more Merfolk, we're going to lose this game anyway, right? So we should find a Merfolk at some point. Alright, more Brainstorms. And Delighted Halfling, sure. I don't think there's any point of wasting. We can't take our opponent off of a colour here. Okay, let's cast this guy. Dress down. Well, that sucks. No card draw. I was hoping they were going to counterspell again. We could play this guy out into potential days. We haven't seen days yet. Can our opponents list support days? Probably. I don't think it does run days though, the mid-rangey ones. Alright, I think we're gonna jam the master. Right, they're trying to get up their curve. It's a bit difficult to do that when you have a bunch of daisies in your deck. The breakfast bills run the daisies so they can send a turn 2 combo. Alright, we're in with our little Merfolk. That is something. We've got some power here, but we are at the mercy of whatever's on top of our opponent's deck and in their hand because we have nothing going on. Cantrips, pretty good. And another cantrip. Can we put a match win on the board? They shuffled again, so they didn't find what they were looking for. Okay, sink into Stupor. That's an interesting one. We can bounce an Endurance if they play it here. Swords to Plowshares. We could bounce the Swords to Plowshares, then just recast it. Are they going to trade their Delighted Halfling for our Silvergill Adept? Probably. Yep. I think we just hold up this Sink into Stupor. This can only bounce your opponent's things, which is why I didn't bounce my own guy. Otherwise, I would have been able to bounce my guy and then replay it on a following turn. Would have been okay. That dress down was really irritating. I really wanted that card. Collector Reef. We've boarded out our Aether Vial, so joke's on you, opponent. Lord of Atlantis, you say? I guess we have the guy. So this Collector Reef means there's no Shukos in their deck either. Or no viable Shukos. So we don't have to worry about Nadu combo. We do still have to worry about the fact that it's just a 3/4 guy that is bigger than most of the stuff we're doing. And has evasion. Green Sun Zenith, X equals 3. This is a Nadu. Do I want to I guess we didn't really have an option to do anything with this, do we? We just have to let the Nadu enter because we have the mana for the sink. This is getting pretty scary. They can Prismatic Ending away the Disruptor Flute at some point, and then we're in a whole heap of trouble. An island, this does not help us. We can't attack. We could bounce and then try and do some stuff, but if we bounce the Nadu, our opponent gets to draw a card. I guess we just have to hope that we draw better than our opponent here. That is our new game plan. Let's roll those dice. Okay, this is only going to put us to 20 because we've gained life off of Source to Plowshares, so we are able to win this race if we draw like another Merfolk that has... I hate Tamiyo. Another Merfolk that has the ability to gift Island Walk, and they can just both keep sending in. A Dismember. What are we even doing with that? We could Dismember a Nadu, that feels horrible. We Dismember the Tamiyo, that also feels horrible. It looks like we just have nothing but bad choices. Cool. I think we're going to Dismember the Nadu, and then we'll try and worry about the Tamiyo later. If we can get another Merfolk into play, then we can start chipping down a Planeswalker potentially. Alright, well, this is a play that I hate. Okay, Nadu. They get a free card off of this. Alright, it was a land. That's not too bad. That's not really what they're looking for right now. But still another piece of mana to do stuff with. They can't crack clues because they're own Collector Roof. So at present, this Tamiyo isn't too scary. If they flip it into a Planeswalker, then we can bounce it, and then we can just start this whole sorry song and dance all over again. Are we just going to see another Nadu? Or is this another green sun for Nadu? Feels like a green sun. It's a green sun for Nadu. We can't do anything about that. Like, we could bounce this spell back to their hand, and it just delays one turn. I just don't know how we're supposed to beat our opponent just playing mediocre guys. We have no recourse for mediocre guys. We can cast this with Kicker, but that doesn't matter. Okay, let's just have this guy. So we can turn one of their white sources into just an island. But then we have to play another island to get this thing into Stupor, and they just get the mana from the carpet anyway. But we now have an island walking threat. So we can actually start applying some pressure. I'm surprised our opponent isn't doing stuff with the Collector Roof. I think they actively want their Collector Roof to die at this point. If they can just start cracking a clue every turn, we can't win this game at that point. I think the best permanent on the board for us is their Collector Roof, which is kind of worrying. I don't really want to bounce these things. We're not really winning this race, but if we can make another guy this turn... We cannot make another guy this turn. We do get to come in with a Tide Shaper, though. So we put our opponent to 12, they put us to 10, we put them to 9, they put us to 7, we put them to 6, they put us to 4, we put them to 3, they put us to 1, we kill them, but then we might have to chump block or do something weird. Okay. I think we're just going to go after their white sources now. We'll do that in their upkeep. By leaving the Wasteland up there, we disincentivize them getting any Surveil lands if they have any. I don't think they will have a third Surveil land, but just in case. I think it may very well be that the best card in our deck is Wasteland. That's pretty horrible for us, sure. So we're going to need another Lord here. We are losing the race. Yeah, they send in all the team. I'm not going to bounce any of these things. That feels terrible. Everything feels terrible. Harbinger of the Seas. It's a guy. It is a guy. The Carpet of Flowers means that this doesn't do very much. They probably just fetch a plains in response here. But we need to play guys out, because we're not winning if we don't play guys out. In comes a Tide Shaper. I can't cast an Endurance here. Okay, so if we play a Lord, we might be able to crash in for 6 next turn. So this is 5 damage. There's a 2-turn clock. I don't think we can afford to block the Collector Roof and unlock all of these clues. Because like I said, this is the only thing that's keeping us in the game. Our opponent could have 4 more cards in their hand. They're playing a backup Nadu. This is so they have a Nadu back for blocks. The thing about Nadus is they always have more than one. We got nothing here. So we have to go to blocks this turn cycle. I guess we play one of these out just in case we can play around a daze. I don't think giving our opponent one more mana is the end of the world here. Maybe it is. I don't know. Everything feels bad. We want a game though, right? We got a game. So we have to block this. We could bounce it, but that's not great for us either. Which of these do I care about? I don't really care about the Harbinger. That unlocks all of their clues, and now they can just gas up with all of this mana. We could have bounced this, so they don't get to do that. But maybe we need to bounce something so we don't die next turn. Again, I don't really know what our solution is to where we're at. Sure, Tamiyo gets to flip. So we can bounce this Tamiyo next turn. But we kind of need to bounce the Nadu. There's no way we can deliver 8 damage to our opponent's face either. We can't dismember anything. We don't have flying blockers. We don't have the tappy guy. We don't have Floodpits Drowner. Alright, I'm just going to scoot this one up. I don't think we're winning here. Well, basically our deck is just full of really bad cards. And we need to string together the few that are reasonable together to even make our bad cards work. And where our opponent has got A plus B stuff, which, you know, they're not great. But Nadu as like an A is so much better than like just a Lord on its own in our deck. But we did get a game win. Let's see if we can put a match win on round number 3. We're on the play. I guess we keep this one. Don't waste down my sink into Stupor, I suppose. We have a lot of 1-drops. Now, none of them are good, but we have them. Do we go for a Mistcaller turn 1? Probably. I think that's the thing that stops us losing to stuff early on the most. Alright, we're in. So we don't have to worry about reanimation or show and tell. Unless they're putting in an Omniscience and we just stone cold to that. A mountain. A lightning bolt. Goodbye, mediocre creature. So I guess this is looking like Painter to me. Let's go for Silvergill Adept. I will show you another Mistcaller. We drew a card. Excellent. So we have a Wasteland for something like there's a Saga. The Bloodstained Mire, though. That's kind of interesting. A Tide Shaper, you say. I think we just attack first and see what our opponent wants to do. Is this going to be an Orcish Bowmasters? Could well be. Or would you look at that? It's an Orcish Bowmaster. Goodbye, creature we had. So we could Tide Shaper away one of their sources. Let's get rid of their black source. And then let's play the Mistcaller. Because we want to then use our Tide Shaper to turn this into an island as well. And just cut our opponent off of spells. Colligan's Command. Yikes. This has 2 targets, so we can't actually stop this from doing its thing. I guess this Harbinger's not doing the most, is it? So, are we just like straight up Rakdos, or are we doing something else over there? Hexcatcher. This has Flash. I could certainly mess with them a little bit. Let's attack. Let's see if they block or not. Double blocking. Okay. Here comes the Hexcatcher. Boom. Blowout. We got one. And then I think we're just trying to put the pedal to the metal and just make some guys here. We got 7 power all of a sudden. Oh, okay, they're Grixis, and they're casting a Ponder off of the thing we did. Okay. So we kind of helped our opponent out there. Maybe they were stuck on blue mana. But they could have fetched it when they had the blue Delta. Snapcaster Mage. Sure. Is this going to Lightning Bolt? I believe it probably is. Now, what do we do here? They're going to target the Hexcatcher. Do we sacrifice a Tide Shaper to keep our Hexcatcher alive? I think we do. It's not a great thing for us to bounce. Lord of Atlantis. I am happy to see you. Believe it or not. This gives us Island Walk, so we get to bash for 6. That's a third of our opponent's life total. Our opponent's got 4 cards over there, though, so we probably end up just getting bodied by whatever's left over. I don't know how many sweeper type effects they have. They probably have Toxic Deluge in the sideboard. Oh wow, just a Cling to Dust to draw a card. Okay, and that's your black mana for the turn as well. Could do with drawing another Lord, please. Not a Lord. I think I will play this island out though. We'll go to attacks.
This is a 3-3. We can bounce a spell off the stack. So I think we're just going to send it and try and get the game over and done with. I think our opponent wins if the game goes long. All right. So blocking here. Have they got anything? Or is this just a chump? So we can try and kill the Hexcatcher here. And try and get like a cheeky 2-for-1. But maybe the Sink into Stupor does enough. Is this just the Cling to Dust being flashed back? They don't have black mana for it. Because of our Tide Shaper. Alright. We have lethal on board. Oh, we won a second game. Beautiful. Now, can we win a match? That is a more difficult question to answer. I believe what we want in this matchup is more threats. Now, how do we fit these threats in? I don't believe Mistcaller is good. So I think we replace that with the Floodpits Drowner. I do still think that Aether Vial is okay. So we will keep that in and just submit like this. And hope that we can just play enough guys to get there. We got some threats. I don't believe this Harbinger of the Seas is very good. Our opponent's going to be fetching basics a lot. But if they don't fetch basics and they do get hit by Harbinger of the Seas, it will be catastrophic. Because their deck is not designed to play well into having its lands messed with. That's why it's so adamant of having basic lands. But this is also just a 3-mana 2-2. I think that's better than 1-mana 1-1 in the Mistcaller. I could be wrong. A Kaito. I guess the Mistcaller can stop the Kaito. That's kind of interesting. Okay, I think the plan is we flash in the Hexcatcher and then we start doing Pearl Trident business. A Brainstorm with a fetch land. The classic. We're going to see another Surveil land. No. This is the Cling to Dust for value. It is. I don't think this is the time we fight using a Hexcatcher. Let's flash in our Hexcatcher. Is it going to die before we get to untap? Probably. But this means our opponent has to interact twice in one turn cycle. That's the benefit of playing it like this. If they Bowmaster this, it can sack it. It can't, well, actually, no, it can't sack itself, can it? Because it won't have a target for the ability. All right. So, Shoulder's Edict into Brainstorm. Interesting. We now get to shut them off of black mana, but wait, they already have black mana, so this isn't really where we want to be. We could just play out the Harbinger of the Seas and be mana efficient, though. I don't hate this. And then next turn we can double up on the Masters. If they want to spend removal on this guy, it's the weakest guy we have. And we have shut them out of multiple black removal spells in one turn, and maybe it makes it more difficult for them to lightning bolt us or anything. Tamiyo. Cool. Not a lover of that one. I will play the Soporific Springs. I will deploy a Master of the Pearl Trident. I will then deploy a Master of the Pearl Trident. I will counterspell whatever you do. Oh, Cling to Dust. I won't counterspell that. You can have a card. And now we will try and ride our little fish to victory. Oh, wow. Can you believe it? We won a game 2. We won a match 2-0. We won a match with Merfolk. Take that. All right. This league is now a success. Let's go to round 4. Okay. Sure. We keep this one. If our opponent plays an island, then we can just play a Tide Shaper. Yeah. This is what we want. So this, named Merfolk. Just play a 1-mana 2-2. Uncountably, I might add. And then we're going to follow up with probably a Lord. And then another Lord. Like, we could play the Silvergill Adept. But the Lord just lets us push damage. But we'll see what we draw. Maybe we have different feelings. Another Force. Okay, so we didn't draw the land that we wanted here. I think that means we cast... Actually, I think we just attack first, and then we'll cast the Silvergill Adept. If something weird happens in combat, we can always flash in a Hexcatcher. We could flash in a Hexcatcher anyway, but I think we just want to get some lands so we can get these spells out of our hand. I will show you a Lord, which you almost certainly expect to be in our hand. We can counterspell... Well, we can counterspell everything. We have all the counterspells in the world. Brainstorm. Hopefully this is a combo matchup where just having Dorks attacking our opponent is going to be good, and then the counterspells will carry us through. I think that's probably where we shine. As much as we can shine. But we want a match. We want a match convincingly. A nice 2-0, easy smashing. So, you know, we're on the board. So I'm trying to think what sort of deck would have this sort of start. And
It could be like a blue-black deck that's going to be trying to build up some sort of critical hand to go off, like a reanimate strategy, or it could be various sort of more combo-y style decks, like Ad Nauseam, or we could be looking at a Sneak and Show deck, or this could just be like a Jeskai style thing going on here. I think we can pitch the Merfolk Trickster for our first counterspell. I think we are just counterspelling things. Keep our guys alive. If you're a control deck... Wow, they're pitching Force of Negation. They really want to kill this guy. Alright, I'm going to pitch this second Force of Will and then just keep 2 guys. Can I have a blue source? No. Okay, we'll attack. And we'll flash in our little friend here. I'm going to do something that deals 1 damage to our guy, maybe. A Snapcaster Mage. You got it. Do we care about this Force of Will? I don't think so. Okay, blocking here. Block the Tide Shaper. Block the Tide Shaper. Yes! We get them. We get them. Let's flash in the Lord. Oh, yes. They scooped to it. Beautiful stuff. Whew. Okay. Do we just do what we did before? Mistcaller's out. Floodpits Drowner's in just because it beats for more damage. I can see that. Let's give it a whirl. I think our opponent's playing like Jeskai Wizards over there. Yes, I'll keep this. It has Cavern of Souls, which is a pretty good card in the matchup for us. Island Ponder from our opponent. So we can go Tide Shaper into a bunch of Lords. Brainstorm, you got it. And a Ponder, sure. I think I want to get a Lord of Atlantis in here. And then we can start thinking about Hexcatchers and stuff. Because this just beats for more damage. And we need to do a bunch of damage before our opponent can Wrath. And then maybe try and pick up the pieces afterwards. Brainstorm. They're doing a lot of cantripping. But cantripping is not killing all of our guys. Okay. Okay. They've got just a bunch of basics as well, which isn't great. I do love this basic though. I always use Onslaught lands in paper. Just beautiful. It's also when I started playing, so it's the nostalgia as well. Alright, we've got Tundra there as a removal colour. We're going to see another cantrip. Ponder, Brainstorm, Ponder, Brainstorm. Into Tamiyo. They can flip this. We can obviously attack it if they flip it. Alright, they're going to plow our poor defenseless Lord of Atlantis. I'll play this out, naming Merfolk, obviously. I will attack with our Tide Shaper. No blocks from our opponents. I will deploy the Hexcatcher for 1 point of damage. Prismatic Vista. This can get them their Mountain if they're looking at doing things like Flame of Anor or Lightning Bolt. Right, they're going to go get their little clue. If they want to Wrath here, they won't be able to save the Tamiyo, but it's already replaced itself. So I don't think they'll mind that too much. Wouldn't mind drawing a land next turn. There's the Mountain, so this is not a Wrath. This is going to be a Flame of Anor. We can sacrifice both our guys to counter this. But that doesn't seem like a great use of our resources. We will force them to pay 1 more for it. If they're going for the shoot our guy mode. Alright. I will sacrifice it to its own ability. Make them at least pay and tap out of blue for a turn. Or white for a turn even. Yep, okay. We get to draw 2 cards and remove our guy. This also flips Tamiyo. Tamiyo goes up a little bit. If we draw a land, we can make 2 Lords. And that's going to be pretty good at smacking this Tamiyo down. We did draw a land. So blue and blue. And then blue and blue. And we attack Tamiyo for 3 here. Like, they're just going to get back removal if we don't deal with the Tamiyo. If they drop a white source in Supreme Verdict, that's going to suck. But these decks tend to have like 1 Supreme Verdict, so I'm not really worried about that. Like, if it happens, it's annoying. But I don't think we should be playing around it when we have other things like spot removal. We should be playing around way more. And, you know, being able to get wide enough to kill a Tamiyo is important too. A lot of cards in our opponent's hand over there. Silvergill Adept. I kind of want to get a card first. This is also just another Force Spike for us if we need it. Harbinger of the Seas. Not the most useful. Okay, we're going to go to attacks here. So this wants to come into Tamiyo. These come into our opponent. Yep, you get made smaller. If they play like a Snapcaster Mage here, we can
drown it with the Floodpits Drowner. They know we have the Drowner though, because they saw it when we did the Silvergill Adept. The one creature they could block is the Marshal of the Pearl Trident, which is also the one thing they probably most want to remove anyway. If the Tamiyo wants to mine us next turn, and like for some reason our Tideshaper isn't connecting, then they do lose the Tamiyo. Hopefully a card that we won't have to see in Legacy for too much longer, since they moved out the banned and restricted announcement. I think it's 4th of November now, so we've still got a little while. Here comes the Snapcaster Mage, I believe. So probably have to Snapcast with the swords rather than the flame, because the flame's very easily dealt with via our Vodalian Hexcatcher. There is the Snapcaster Mage. They're going to target something. And we're going to play this Drowner. A Dress Down. Interesting. I think we force them to pay here. So if they pay, they don't get to source the plowshares here. So I can sacrifice another guy. If I sacrifice either of these guys, it doesn't go well for us though. I think this unfortunately has to happen. So Tamiyo's going to get to pop off again and get a card back or go upstairs. But we are going to be putting damage through this turn. Our Uncountable Floodpits Drowner will have no abilities. It's the 0-1 now, isn't it? Because of the Tamiyo. So they can just trade into whatever they want quite easily here. Oh, Tamiyo. Why do you exist? Alright, so we lose a guy here. But we still got like a reasonable board. Now Tamiyo makes that board worse. Additional dress downs make it worse. Our opponent might be able to turn the corner here. We're just going to see a 4th Eorlingus there? No. A Brainstorm. So they just went upstairs with the Tamiyo. So they're not getting back anything. So they didn't want their Tamiyo to die. So then this gives us a... Do we pressure the Tamiyo? Do we press their life total bit? If we pressure the Tamiyo, it gives them the time to find the answers. If we don't press the Tamiyo, then they already have the answers. There's just no winning with 1-mana Planeswalkers. Card is too good. A Thundertrap Trainer. This can find some pretty juicy interaction for our opponent here. A Flame of Anor. 2 mana here. They're going to end our guy that's giving us evasion. Yep, that certainly sucks for us. And they've got this Flame of Anor just chilling out. We can take our opponent off of red mana. That's actually kind of interesting. The problem is they have a Tamiyo. And what Tamiyo does is it's going to get back the Prismatic Ending and kill the Tideshaper. We can play as Floodpits Drowner to tap this Snapcaster Mage. It gives us the ability to attack into the Tamiyo, but then they can trade their Thundertrap Trainer. I think what happens here is we lose the game. But at least the Tamiyo has to minus here, which maybe gives us a chance to play this, draw a Lord, and then shove enough damage to kill our opponent. Alright, they're just going upstairs with a Tamiyo. A Brainstorm, sure. So we can tap down this Snapcaster Mage and have enough creatures to stop the Tamiyo ultimately next turn. A Ponder. Like, Tamiyo is such a weird card, because it is a skill testing card of like when you should be minusing it and stuff. But the problem is, it's just so far above the power level of other stuff that you can play it wrong and still be fine. It just really warps the game in a pretty horrible fashion, in my opinion. I did call for it to be banned at the last BNR, and apparently some people on Reddit had a go at me for it, for wanting this card that is completely dominating the game to maybe not be in the game. Who'd have thought? Alright, Floodpits Drowner, let's go. Let's drown this Snapcaster Mage in the bin with you. Okay. The thing that we wanted to happen has happened, which is exciting. Okay, let's do the maths on this one. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's not lethal. But we can kill the Tamiyo, I think. Let's just say no to Tamiyo. Another Snapcaster Mage with a Source of Plowshares, which kills my guy. Yep. Don't like that very much. So they kill the Master. All of our guys shrink. They get to eat something with a Thundertrap Train. They get to eat something with this. Yeah, we're going to scoop this one up. Oh dear, Tamiyo. The game was pretty much brought to you single-handedly by Tamiyo, I would say. Just completely changed everything. What are we supposed to do about that? We can board in Disruptor Flutes. I don't think that's how we do it. I think we just have to go hard and smash into damages. I do like the Aether Vials here still. Okay, turn 1 Aether Vial is pretty strong. So is just jumping some Tide Shapers in there. I will play out the Aether Vial though. It might get a Force of Will out of our opponent. It gives us some pretty unique ways of playing around this one. We can put a bunch of power into play turn 2. And maybe cut them off of colours as well. Or a colour. So if they start off on something that isn't an island, we can turn it into one. It's an island. It's a ponder. Okay, so we're going up with the Aether Vial here. A Lord of Atlantis, you say? I'm going to play this Silvergill Adept, I think. And I'll reveal this Tide Shaper. We're trying to assemble the most power in the shortest space of time. So next turn, so in our opponent's turn, we can put the Tide Shaper in an end step, and then we can play the Lord of Atlantis uncounterably, and that's quite a lot of damages. And maybe we also get to shut off something with the Tide Shaper in our turn as well. So we can do that before play the Lord, potentially. We're going to see a Tamiyo here. Thanks, I hate it. Let's activate the Vial. Tide Shaper. We're going to see a Swords 2 Plowshares on our Tide Shaper. Seems like the answer is probably yes here. I don't think that's the scariest thing we have, but maybe they can just tread water for long enough by doing that. Am I playing this one out as a land? Uncertain. Let's get rid of that plains. That's an island now. I'll attack with this Silvergill Adept. They shouldn't block here. Put in the Lord. Boom, 3 damages. I'm not going to play out this Sink into Stupor. Maybe bouncing something at a clutch moment is going to be really helpful later on. Are they going to go and fetch a white source here, or are they just going to get the Flame of Anor going? Looks like Flame of Anor. Yep, so we lose the Lord of Atlantis, and they draw 2 cards, which then flips the Tamiyo. Oh no, they're just destroying our Aether Vial. That's not so bad. The Aether Vial's kind of done some work already. They're coming in with the Tamiyo? No, I didn't feel like it. Merfolk Trickster. This can tap this creature and make it lose abilities. Floodpits Drowner can also do similar things. This has Flash, which might be more useful later on. This also has Flash. It's only a 2/1. Alright, we're gonna drown some Floodpits over there. This allows us to force 4 damage through. Get out of here, Tamiyo. And this won't untap next turn, so we have 6 damage on the following turn, which is half of our opponent's life total. If they go for some sort of blocker, Merfolk Trickster can handle that as well. Our opponent is a little bit shy of removal colours they would necessarily want right now because we're cutting the white off. Alright, there is a Tundra. We can shut that off as well. So we're probably losing the Tide Shaper here because that unlocks their planes. This time they probably do flip the Tamiyo. Yep, why shouldn't they draw 2 cards, kill our creature, and also get this Planeswalker that we can't beat? I think we are pretty close to being done with this game. 1 mana Planeswalker, too good. Alright, we play this on Merfolk, obviously. So we can put a little bit of damage on Tamiyo. Unfortunately, what we have to do, because this is now what the entire game is about. Because if they get back a Flame of Anor, we basically lose. Like, we could bounce this, or we could just make more guys. I think making more guys is the best play here. That's going to take them a little bit more off of white mana. There is a Brainstorm. So we could let the Tamiyo tick up and then just try and bounce it. We can't leave our opponent with the ability to just minus the Tamiyo, get back a Flame of Anor, kill our guys. Or get back a Plow and kill our guys. There's just no good way around this. We could have boarded in Disruptor Flute just for this, but then we'd feel bad in any of the games where we don't have Tamiyo. But maybe we just have to suck it up and play some bad cards because this is the best thing in the game right now. I don't know. Hard to say. Alright, blue. You got Murktide Region over there? No, just a Thundertrap Trainer. That makes way more sense. What are they going to reveal? Something that kills our guy, most likely. It's a Swords to Plowshares, so they can unlock their mana if they want to. Seems like a good situation for our opponent to be in there. Attacking into the Thundertrap Trainer is pretty bad. This does not really do anything. I guess we have to go to attacks and force our opponent to do something with their Thundertrap Trainer here. This is awful. So we're trying to force out the Plow here so then we can drop the Marshal of the Pearl Trident.
I guess we could, like, just Merfolk Trickster this. Alright, let's do that. We want our opponent to use removal on something that isn't our Master of the Pearl Trident. Yep. I would describe this as a pretty bad scenario. What do they want to take out? Probably, okay, the Floodpits Drowner makes sense. So we put 2 damage on the Tamiyo, so it can't buy anything back. Do we play the Master here? Oh, if they plow, then we play the Master. Okay, yes, we play the Uncountable Master, which is why we left the Cavern of Souls. It's going to cost us 3 life, but this game isn't about our life total. Let's play this. Yes, pay 3 life. Let's get a Merfolk going now that they've used their plow. Alright, our opponent's got 4 cards in hand and a Tamiyo, burning a hole in their pocket there. I think at this stage they just minus a Tamiyo, get the Flame of Anor, draw 2 cards, kill our Master of the Pearl Trident. Nope, okay, they just want to keep plussing. That means their hand is stacked enough already. Cool. Now we're just completely beaten by this Tamiyo. At least this Thunder Trap Trainer doesn't kill any of our guys in combat this time around. Or maybe it still does. Snapcaster Mage, they're going to get something back. I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm sick and tired of this. Let's go to round 5. Like, we're playing a bad deck, and our opponent is doing some pretty gross things. But we got 1 round left. We could get some pity points back if we win the last one, but we are getting absolutely smashed. As expected, we're playing Merfolk. Alright, final round, let's go. Cavern of Souls into Fish. That's what our deck wants to do. Swamp, Thoughtseize. Oh, it's a Duress. They can take our Force of Will, I guess. Duress probably means our opponent is on a combo deck, which is something that in theory we're okay with. We can just board in a bunch of counter magic and just have some guys, and some guys are good enough. Let's name Merfolk here. Because they led off on the Duress, I think our opponent is probably running a combo deck. But if it's a combo deck that has blue spells in, then it's worth getting the Cavern down. They're not going to have Wasteland here. Mox Opal. This is probably like Beseech Storm. Alright, Chrome Mox. I don't know if they're imprinting here. This might just be material to bargain away with a Beseech and also turn on the Mox Opal. Or are they going to do something in response? Okay, yeah. So ad nauseaming with the trigger on the stack so that when they go deeper, they can put something into this. Alright, so they've got the Lion's Eye Diamond. That's part of the plan. They need to find a Dark Ritual here. They need to keep going. This isn't enough to win the game. Cabal Ritual isn't enough. Actually, got the Chrome Mox here, so it probably is enough, right? This is going to be 5 mana. And the Dark Ritual, that's definitely enough to win the game now. Yep, so they're going to play a bunch of rituals. They put one of their Infernal Tutors underneath the Chrome Mox. So the other Chrome Mox is going to do its thing. We don't need to see. We're just dead here. We'll just let our opponent go through the motions here so you can see it. Yep, here's a Lion's Eye Diamond. Plenty of mana here. I can Infernal Tutor, then crack the LED. We got to see the sweet Chrome Mox play, which is quite nice. Wishclaw Talisman. Infernal Tutor, presumably cracking the LED in response. Storm is 11, so this is going to be fine for Tendrils of Agony. Goes to our face, and we go to game number 2. Good night. That is that game over and done with. Let's see if we can do something good out of the sideboard. I think our sideboard here is okay for this particular matchup. We get 4 Disruptor Flutes and 3 Force of Negation. We do not require Aether Vials. So that's one thing we get to cut. Mistcaller is probably the weakest creature we have. It is a blue card, but whatever. Let's get out of here. Harbinger sometimes does stuff. Everything else is sometimes does stuff. We could probably swap a Mistcaller for a Floodpits Drowner as well. 2 power is just a little bit more relevant. Sure, we have counter magic and other things. Merfolk Trickster is something we can hold up. Basic Island, pass. And Urza's Saga. So we could shut this down with a Disruptor Flute, which I think might be worth doing. We'll do this on our turn so that our opponent doesn't have access to an additional storm for free. Alright. So they can't go on the Construct beatdown plan. But they're still tutors, which can be what they're actually after. But I don't know if we beat the Construct beatdown plan. We have a counter spell to try and beat their combo plan. And then we can just start spamming Lords until our opponent dies. Here is my Lord of Atlantis. There's more where that came from. I don't feel particularly safe here. Like, our opponent probably doesn't even have to go for it this turn. And just wait until they have the ability to duress us first. But if they go for a big Hail Mary, Lion's Eye Diamond plan, that's good for us. Alright, there's a Saga. I shut off at least. They're playing some stuff out. So maybe this is a go turn. A Thought Seize. Do I just Force of Negation this so they don't have the information? I think so. If they Thought Seize, take our Force of Negation, then they know we're absolutely dead. This way, they have to decide if they're going to wait another turn. And it doesn't really impact our clock either by discarding the Drowner. Chrome Mox. Sure. Now, they might just still go for it anyway, and we lose, but we at least make our opponent not have perfect information so they can play perfectly. Lotus Petal. 2 cards left in hand. Storm count is 6. A Dark Ritual. 1 card left in hand. An Infernal Tutor. Cracking Lion's Eye Diamond. Sure. This gets them the Ad Nauseam. And we're probably just going to die here. This is what we get for playing a truly terrible deck. I assume it's Ad Nauseam. It could just be the Beseech for Gaia's Will. That line works. This seems kind of riskier to me because they've already got mana to work with. Like, they would have 2 mana left over to start with if they did an Ad Nauseam chain. And this way just exposes themselves to Graveyard Hate. Although what they might be doing is just doing Beseech. Yeah, so just going to do a Beseech train. That's fine, that makes sense. So Beseech into Beseech, and then they can just Tendrils us. Yep, we got smushed again. Alright, we won 4 games, and we were lucky enough that that meant that we ended up with 1 match. This deck is truly bad, let's talk about it and why. So, somebody did manage to 5-0 league, but if you throw enough stuff at the wall, eventually something will stick. Like, this is capable of winning games of Magic, we showed that. It's got creatures, it's got counterspells. Sometimes they line up in the right way. But what we're doing is just not powerful. We need a bunch of these guys to equal 1 creature that's good enough for Legacy. Like, 1 Baragoyf is better than like 2 of our Lords. So we're already behind on that little metric there. And we don't have like a way of spamming tokens to make this like be doing more duty. We actually have to play real cards. And some of those cards are very poor, like Mistcaller and Tideshaper. Tideshaper's fine if it's a 2-2, but sometimes it's a 2 mana 2-2. Sometimes it's a 1 mana 1-1. Sometimes it's a 1 mana 2-2. In that situation, fine. In the other situations, pretty bad. And the Wasteland, not being a blue source, did jam us up. Now, this did help us beat a player because we had... we won a game because we had triple Wasteland. I don't necessarily know if that's where we need to be. But like I said at the start, this deck is trying to play a bunch of 2-drops. But we're trying to go slower. It's like that bit from The Simpsons where Bart Simpson gets put into like a remedial class. And then he asks the question like, how are we supposed to catch up if we're going slower? And that's kind of how I feel when we're doing the Aether Vial stuff in this deck. If I was trying to build a Merfolk deck from scratch right now, which I can do if you want to pay me money to do it, I will do this. I don't particularly like Merfolk, but if you want to give me money, contact me via Discord, and I will do a Merfolk deck where I'm building from the ground up in what I think looks better. That would probably be something involving something like a Chrome Mox, or possibly even just Lotus Petals, but something so we can go turn 1 2-drop, turn 2 2-drop, and then back that up with things like Force of Will. Potentially Daze becomes more playable. I don't think I want to be playing Wastelands in that deck. I think I just want to be having our spells going. I don't know if there's some good green ones out there, but if we're ramping out early with things like Chrome Mox, we can play something that allows us to recoup that card advantage that we've lost, or card disadvantage, I guess, at the end with... I don't necessarily think Bident of Thassa's the one, but there's definitely some like blue thing that lets us draw a bunch of cards that we could play in the shell that might be useful. And I would just restructure this entire deck. Instead of playing these rubbish guys and like this Aether Vial, I'd be trying to accelerate out my threats and try and actually play things on a curve that makes them good. Like this on turn 3 is rubbish. This on turn 1, okay, we're talking. This following up with this, you know, the game looks entirely different. There's just not the time to be doing Aether Vial stuff in Legacy, in my opinion. Sideboard-wise, we certainly had tools, but like we're super cold to Tamiyo. We can board in the Disruptor Flutes just for Tamiyo, but that doesn't feel great. Like we're having to board out like either something that gets us through our opponent's counterspells or our threats in order to deal with just just 4 cards in our opponent's deck. And I don't think that's the way to go. We just need to hopefully try and pressure it.
But yeah, Tamio is pretty messed up when you're trying to play a bunch of like small guys. It's pretty messed up, full stop. But really didn't feel like we were doing very much there. We didn't have any Hydroblast for the red deck either. It just felt like we could be doing a bunch of different things in this space and it would be better. And hats off to the person who managed to 5 over this. This deck is, no offense to anyone, but Merfolk are a bad deck in Legacy. But if you want to see me try and build a version that I think is good, like I said, give me some money. I need money. Please get in touch. And we can do a deck donation where I build it from scratch. Anyway, plugging myself over and done with. I hope you enjoyed watching Fish. And this is kind of a cautionary tale to not do this yourself. And I hope that none of you do. Alright, thanks for watching and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel. A mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles. And lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.